So I guess you guys are asking me to continue with the spirit of pushing on, or you want to take a break? You want to take two more and keep going, or you want to take a break? It's up to you all. I'm looking to everyone. I mean, Michael, you can get up and take a break. Please don't feel like you have to stay. Governor Root will help us with the numbers while you leave. So, yeah. So we're going to invite FAU to come on board. Yes, oh my God, it's time for you to stand up for a second.
Madam President, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here, and I'm also glad it's one of the longest days of the year, right? We'll try to keep to our time. I'm very pleased to say that we have two of our Board of Trustees members. We have our chair, Bob Stilley, here with us, and did I say that one? Oh, I thought you said something. And one of our newest Board of Trustee members, one appointed by the Board of Governors, Paul Tanner, with us. We have David Mann, our government relations person, and Dr. Diane Alperin, our interim provost. So it's a pleasure to be here today. If you look at the logo, you note that it says our 50th anniversary year this year. The university was founded in 1961 with a legislative allotment of $1.3 million. So it's kind of interesting in 50 years to see what that initial investment has grown to. I'm going to just briefly start with some of what's gone on this past year, meeting some of the goals that the state and that we have set for ourselves. One of the most important is the increase in the medical education opportunities in the state of Florida with our new College of Medicine. We had 1,500 applicants for our 64 slots, and they came from our new class of 64 students. Represents all of the major universities in Florida, as well as institutions like Princeton and Duke and Wellesley and Yeshiva and Cornell. So it's going to be a wonderful thing for the university. We were also charged by this group with working on medical education, graduate medical education, the residencies. And we're working with 8 hospitals in a consortium to develop those medical residencies in Broward County and Palm Beach County. And we're online, I think, to meet that target of the 300 new medical residency slots in a very short period of time. There's been a plan to increase the campus at Boca Raton as a traditional campus, and you'll be seeing a little bit more about our increase in residence halls and campus stadium and the new academic buildings that we have. And we feel the combination of both that traditional environment and having opportunities like the medical school have led to a tremendous increase in applications for our freshman class. It more than doubled over last year, up to over 22,000 applications, 24,000 including summer applications for our fall class. So as you'll see later, we were able to enter a larger freshman class that is even more highly qualified than in the past. Some of the new programs we developed are ones that speak to the needs of the community and also to opportunities. As you all know, Max Planck, Florida is the only site that the Max Planck Institute is in the entire United States, and that's on our Jupiter campus. And they've partnered very well with us and Scripps in our integrative biology PhD program, and there's been many, many co- and joint activities. Some of the new other degrees are bachelors in public safety and urban design. Those are focused on our Fort Lauderdale campus where they speak to community needs. Some of the highlights of our achievements in reaching some of the statewide goals that were set, if you look, this bar goes from 2005-06 to 2009-10, and we have increased our first time in college graduation rate, and when we look at our peer institutions, we are in the top third of those. An increase in graduate health profession degrees, and our education degrees, we have doubled both undergraduate and graduate, and if you look at your statewide metrics, that increase was about 19% across the system, so we're a big contributor to that part of the mission. Our research expenditures have doubled in that period of time, and the Board of Trustees have asked that we go on a continued doubling track into the next 5 years. And again, the nursing licensure pass rate is at 95.8%, which is well above the national average. I just heard today that our education college received a $2.4 million federal grant for working with students in the school system, looking at the impact of maturing social skills and management skills as well as academic preparation. So we continue to be proud of our College of Education. On the graduation rates, another grant that we were successful in getting this year was another federal grant, a Title III grant. And this is looking at how do you retain students from the sophomore year into the junior year, another point in time that we lose students that are first time in college. So that's a $1.3 million federal grant to work with those at-risk students. Some other highlights are the fact that in things like the health professions, the nursing degrees, we need more doctorally trained nurses for filling faculty positions and higher ranking positions within the hospital system. We were named a new National Center for Marine Renewable Energy, one of only 3 in the country that recognizes our advances in ocean energy. Our College of Business always ranks in the top nationally, and in fact we had one student that ranked in the top 10 students of the 85,000 students that take the CPA exam. We've been named a best business school for many years in a row, and one of our art professors won the Guggenheim Prize this year, and they give out only 64 of those. And I'm a bench scientist, and I know how hard it is to get an NIH grant or an NSF grant, but I'll tell you, it's even harder to get a Guggenheim Fellowship. So we're very proud of Blaine de St. Croix for receiving that award. Infrastructure has been very important to us, and we've been very fortunate that the former president of the university, who will go unnamed in this group, was extremely successful in getting money for new buildings on campus. I cut a lot of ribbons this year, and I gave credit to Frank every time because we have some wonderful new buildings on campus to serve our students. They're all built to gold or silver or platinum LEED standards, and the engineering building is certainly one that's attracting engineering students. A public-private partnership on the Culture and Society building, and I think that again speaks to, you've heard it from the other presidents, the need to continue to have the state support the matching funds programs and the matching building programs. We share a facility with the University of Florida down on our Davie campus that concentrates on research in the Everglades. And on our new Marine Science campus, remember we acquired Harbor Branch Oceanographic Institute, and that had some buildings damaged by hurricanes several years ago, and those buildings are finally being renovated. And now looking forward, we are planning for growth at the institution. You have heard this from other universities too. If you look at this diagram, you see the largest growth will be on the Boca campus, and that will be our traditional undergraduate student, and then some upper division growth there, and then growth in grad too. We're seeing a decline in the master's degree enrollments, primarily I think because that's a lot is in our College of Education. And now that there isn't merit pay for getting higher degrees, that's a place that we think we'll see some decline. The green slice of the pie there is our Jupiter campus, where we have the wonderful opportunity of taking advantage of the state investment in Scripps and Max Planck and the recent growth of that area for the biotechnology industry. So we're going to move up there some of our graduate programming in bioscience and computer science imaging to take advantage of that. Looking at the goals for the institution that mirror goals at many of the other institutions in the state, and of course we all want to improve our retention, our baccalaureate graduation rates, and here are some of the ways that we're going to do that. E-learning is very attractive to students, and you've asked before, do we look to other universities for best practices, and yes we do. So our staff have worked with the staff at West Florida and Central Florida and seen what they do in e-learning so that we can model some of those best practices. Advising is extremely important, and advising is where we put a lot of our differential tuition money into advisors. And that's something we'll continue to do if we get funded for our differential tuition. The degree audit technology, again, more and more we need to use technology to help students chart their way through the system, chart their way to a degree, and we have been a little bit behind the curve in using technology in that way, and we want to implement that this year. We are undergoing this year our self-study for SACS reaccreditation, reaffirmation. And as part of that process, they ask you to do a quality enhancement plan, of which you have to put new money, and it has to be something that you have a competition for internally. And the competition that won was one that focused on our honors education program and undergraduate research. And so we'll be funding that in the future, looking at honors education across all of our campuses, not just at our residential honors college in Jupiter. Undergraduate research, as a bench researcher, I know how important it is for the students to connect with faculty, to get the opportunity to see what a university professor is all about outside the classroom. And that's something we want to build with this quality enhancement plan and invest in. The same thing with the Center for Teaching and Learning. We all went through the university and we never really had a course on how to teach. And so we need to be working with faculty on best practices there, on what do you do with e-learning, on how you develop good research projects, and how you teach in bid classrooms too. And lastly, and most importantly, is to recruit those highly qualified faculty. And again, that's what's in our tuition differential plan. We are looking forward to continual growth at the university, and the kinds of courses that we're proposing are ones that take advantage of what the needs of our community are. Science journalism would be a course based on our Jupiter campus, where you have a lot of ability to talk about what's going on in the world of science with the partners that are up there, which are international powerhouses in the sciences. We certainly all hear more and more about cyber and information security. That's a good direction for computer science in our engineering college to go into. We'll be opening Innovation Village, part of our plan to have residential campus on the Boca campus, completing a marine science building on the Harbor Branch campus. We're going to be, as I said earlier, relocating researchers up to the Jupiter campus, and that's part of our legislative budget request to be able to fund that sufficiently. And then, of course, we're going to need for these kinds of growth some parking facilities and new classrooms, and then use e-learning strategically to use that for increasing the student body. And if you would cue the video there.
Over at Jupiter, Howard's dream continues to rise from the ground in Boca Raton. His $65 million complex is ahead of schedule. FAU will play in its new 30,000-seat stadium for the first time on Saturday, October 15th. Today we took a tour inside the facility. School officials expect to pump $1.7 million into the local economy with each home game. Coach Howard says the excitement level on campus is building each and every day.
The stadium is going to be a wonderful addition, not only for football and the other sports here at Florida Atlantic, but it's going to be a wonderful thing for all the people from the Treasure Coast and the part that I call Paradise right here in Boca. And it's going to give us an opportunity to grow and develop and do a great job of recruiting even better football players.
The Owls host Western Kentucky in their first game. Meanwhile,
and you're all going to get the opportunity to see that stadium up close at the November Board of Governors meeting. My plans right now are to hold that inside the stadium, so we'll see if that continues. We do need to, next one, sorry. Reaching for excellence in research. Of all the universities in the system, I think that we are poised to make major advances in research because of our location on the coast, because of the interest in alternative energy, the interest in the environment, the interest in what happens with global warming, the aging population, the investment that the state has already made in Scripps and Max Planck. And so as you look at our plans for increasing our research profile, you see that we talk about societal contemporary issues. I like to say sometimes Florida first. We're the first ones facing some of the issues that will then be issues across the country. Things like students in schools with multiple languages, facing climate change that's going to affect a coastal state like Florida first. Some of the changes in how we do funding of universities, we're all doing it first here. These are some of the areas that we have continued excellence in at the university and continue to build on for building a research university. The last bullet there is talking about expanding our internships and partnering in economic development. I think that's a great responsibility for public universities, is to deal with the local business community and have our students have opportunities to work in that business community and be able for the businesses to get a good long look at a student and think about hiring that student. I also think that as the economy recovers, it's one of the ways that companies build back their employment base and their staff is by starting with interns and then growing their full employees. Our board has put that as a primary focus for us to look at partnering in economic development. And again, I think that's absolutely the right thing to do, is to take all the resources that are available to you and use that to educate your students well. Oh, okay. Did the video come up?
Really big source, the Atlantic Ocean.
Looking at the ocean, it's just a waste of not using that constant force that is out there.
Environmental scientists at Florida Atlantic University are measuring the Gulf Stream off the Florida coast as a potential renewable energy source.
The amount of power per unit area in the Florida current is as much power as there is in a gale force wind.
These acoustic Doppler current profilers take vertical slices through the ocean and use sound to measure the speed of the water flowing through these slices at different times.
They measure the current very much the way that a weather radar measures the wind.
The eventual goal here is to set up a testing platform for new kinds of generating equipment, like horizontal wind turbines that could one day turn the power of the Gulf Stream into electricity.
That's about enough to power 10 average American homes.
Just like you can turn a rotor with the wind and use wind power as renewable energy, you can turn a rotor with the Florida current.
It's science that could one day put the power of the ocean to work to help meet our energy needs for the future. The Gulf Stream project is one of several currently looking at ways to convert ocean energy into electricity. Researchers are also exploring ocean waves and tides as possible energy sources for the future.
And if you were watching the crawl across the bottom, you noticed that that was not a Florida TV station, that was in the central part of the country in Kansas. Finally, I'm going to take a note from my distinguished colleague Judy Bentz and have a positive note to the budget. I noticed that got a lot of positive smiles from the Board of Governors. We do have a request out there for LBR funding. That would be primarily for infrastructure that will help build our research endeavor. The student demand and growth, if you look, that's where the tuition differential request is primarily located. And expanding our research opportunities, that's again to take advantage of the great opportunities that we have with some of our partners. And I will be happy to take questions. Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Governor Hussaini.
Can you, I'm very interested on your residency. I think it sets a tremendous example for our whole state. So can you tell us some more about your partnership with the Scripps? How is that going? How's it going? How many students you're getting? How has it been accepted? And also give me some more detail about your residency. Is the hospitals have received their approvals? What process are they in? If you could give us some detail, Madam
Right.
President.
Thank you. Well, we do have students admitted to our very first medical school class that will be doing PhDs with the Scripps researchers. We hope to have even more next year when we're more on the cycle of when they interview students also. But we do have students that applied for those slots and that we did fill those slots this year, so we're very proud of that. Graduate medical education, as you know, is a very, very complicated process of approval of the hospitals. What we've done is the 7 hospitals plus 1 additional hospital that we're working with on our Med 3 and 4 program for the internships are working together as a consortium, and I think that's just the way to do it. So they're meeting and talking about which of the different specializations the different hospitals will have the capability to go forward in supporting. They're working as a consortium to work together with the application process, and I believe we're making great progress, and I think that's just the way to do it. So we have 8 hospitals in that consortium with the potential of 300 new residency slots in the community.
So what do you think the timing would be? When do you think they will have?
Some
would
will
they
be
have when your students graduate?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They will have started applying now and be ready to take our students and students from around the country in 2 to 3 years.
Now, you said the students from around the country. I mean, they're going to cover our students. I mean, your students.
Well, the way the residency works is a national match program.
Okay.
But the advantage of already partnering with a hospital for Med 3 and 4 is that they've seen that student. So when the student puts into the national match for getting a residency, that request, the hospital always also matches that with that's a student that they would take.
Is there going to be any federal help on this, or this is going to be purely a hospital doing out of their pocket?
They will definitely go through the application for the Medicaid appropriation for residencies.
Even though there is no available slot by the at the federal level?
They'll put in their application for those. Some of them, like the Cleveland Clinic, can talk about self-funding because they already self-fund many of their residency programs and understand the value of it to their services to their patients.
Okay, because, I mean, from what I understand, the feds has not funded any residency for years.
I don't think that's...
Am I...
I don't have an answer to that.
Okay. So we just want to make sure that the hospitals, you know, I mean, if I assure you, if that was the case, that they would have got funding from the feds, lots of others would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of those self-funding deals that we need to commit. So if you could check on that, can you send me an email or something on that?
I will be happy to do so.
I really appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I had the privilege with the Chancellor of spending a half day with the President and the Chair of the Board and the Provost a couple days ago, and I hadn't been on campus for over 3 years. And it's extraordinary, the change. And I just want to tell all of y'all that I think you're all going to be very excited and proud about the fact that you're part of all this when you see what's going on there. And I think the Chancellor might have had a little bit to do with it, but not a whole lot. I mean, Norm Phil had a lot to do with it, and I think, but anyway, it's pretty exciting. So you're doing a great job.
Thank you for that.
Governor Frost?
Comment. I also think they're incredible. They're doing a great job, and I just hear lots of gossip from their partners like Scripps that they're happy with this relationship. I just wanted to ask if you would, maybe you're already doing this, but to make sure that your dean of your medical school informs the residency programs around the nation about this new medical school, because that's going to be very important when young people start to apply for the match and where the most important areas are. Even though we'd love to keep them in Florida, many will not stay in Florida for residencies, but will go out of Florida and then come back to us, hopefully, which is true. And so there are some really great ones. I just want to make sure that all the residency programs around the nation know that you have this great new program.
Thank you.
And I know you're working also with some of the hospitals going south of your location too, so that's a good sign.
Can I just respond to that? Unfortunately, 75% of, from what I understand, 75% of the students that we spend the money on them and we train them, when they leave for residency, they will not come back, 75%. And if they meet their match, a wife or a husband, 87% won't come back. So if we have our residency,
Oh, it'd be better, of course.
we will, 92-3%, we will keep him in Florida, which they're going to be in a tremendous need of physicians in the next 10 years.
And of course, some of them are going into academic medicine too afterwards. They're not just going to go into practice to be coming back to Florida. So hopefully there are lots of opportunities that they're going to be able to work with after they finish their residency programs with that whole corridor of companies that are now cropping up.
Just a comment, MJ and David Armstrong did a video. We have a program on tripscott.com, if you'd ever like to see it, where we invite people to come in and we do a 15-minute take, and they just completed that, and it was highly accepted. Governor Scott will be doing one with us in the next few days. We've had Gary Johnson. We'd like to have, there's another candidate running for president who's closely related to one of our Board of Governors here. We'd like to have him come and do one. But they did a great job, and there is truly a good partnership between the Broward College and Palm Beach College and the university. And one of the things that's going to make it even better is the new trustee, Paul Tanner, in his former life was a trustee and chair of the board of Broward College. So he brings a good relationship to this position now.
Yes.
Norma, I had meant to say that earlier, that you know, we have taken a note again from Central Florida that has done a wonderful job of outreach to the community college, state colleges that they partner with. And we have a new program called the LINK program that we've modeled on their Direct Connect exactly to do the same kind of thing of advising of students in those first 2 years, because we have more transfer students than we have first time in college. We're one of the parts of the system where we take more students in the junior year than we take in the freshman year. So it's very important to us to maintain great relationships with our co-located state colleges, and that we have great students coming in through those that kind of transfer.
I forgot, I didn't want to, Frank has also been on our website. He has more hits than anybody in the world.
Yeah, MJ, did you suggest that our chancellor did a lot of politicking with the
I don't know how he
legislators
got
about
those
getting buildings?
I don't know how he did it, but we're pleased about every single one of them.
I have a question. I'm sorry, no, please.
Looks like you're going to grow about 38% in the next 5 years based on the projections you presented. Could you handle that growth with the existing facilities you've got today?
I believe so. We have 7 campuses, and we have some campuses that don't have undergraduates on that, like Harbor Branch. We have a lot of capacity, I believe, in the Jupiter campus to grow our honors college, our residential college, especially with the attractiveness of the science environment there. And we're very low in numbers on students with e-learning. And so if we grow even up to a state average, we grew 20% in e-learning this year, and again, remember that requires a different kind of infrastructure and not the actual physical buildings. So, yes, we'll still take it, but what we would be, we're very thoughtful about where we're projecting to go, and it would be things like another medical school, clinical building, building out the Jupiter campus for our residential scientists up there, shared facilities with Scripps, Max Planck. That's the kind of thing we'll be proposing.
Madam President, I have a question. You know, when I've heard the University of West Florida, and I now hear yourself, when we're talking about modeling your different relationships with your state college partners, similar to what Dr. Hitt has done with his, I guess, Direct Connect.
Right.
Is the major difference that it's a different level of communication and plus these advisors? And is that the big difference from the traditional 2+2? What is it?
I think the goal is that a student thinks of a 4-year, a baccalaureate degree from the time they enter. So that the courses that they're taking, if they're thinking of going into engineering, if they're thinking of going into the sciences, you want to have the courses in freshman and sophomore year that allow you to become a true junior when you enter. One of the things that I worry about is students when they do transfer is if it still takes them 4 years to complete, then what was the value of spending 2 years on another campus? We might accept those credits, but they might not be the correct prerequisites for what the student wants to ultimately get their degree in. So what you don't want is to have students have more credits than they need for graduation. So it's a thoughtful advising about what they want to do. It's mentally seeing, I'm going to do this and then move on to my 4-year baccalaureate program, and having the advisors have that kind of connection and have them feel like a student that's a student of both institutions right from the beginning.
And Norm was talking about the relationship that I've heard that UCF has with the guaranteed
It's that, yes,
location.
Right. Because remember with the articulation agreement, it says you can go to a university. It doesn't specify which university. And so with this, we're saying we will have a slot for you to go to Florida Atlantic University if you successfully complete your AA degree.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you.